For our work, we're really working to support mobility in all its forms for individuals with disabilities. We love working with our participants. We see them as co-designers and creators in our process as they're helping us understand how technology can support their mobility in daily life. And so in particular, we work with kids and adults with cerebral palsy and stroke survivors to help them understand how their body is moving after injury and how our technology can best support them. And so as I've progressed in my career, I've become much more interested in supporting mobility in all of its forms, from walking to wheeling. And wearable sensors and data science are a big component in helping us understand this and to eliminate some of the bias and barriers that currently impact an individual's mobility. And oftentimes our traditional healthcare mechanisms to support those don't actually get to what they need in daily life: moving, exploring, and for kids, playing.
How do you make the music play? Great job.
As we try to figure out how to leverage all this data to support mobility, one of our big challenges has been figuring out how do we optimize our assistive technology and other techniques to best support each individual's mobility. One of our techniques that we've often used to make sense of all this data is to normalize it to population-based averages. However, in doing this, we often were ignoring the reality that what is optimal or best for one individual is highly unlikely not the best for another. This is something that we call the normalcy fallacy, or basing our decisions or evaluations on normative assumptions of a population-based average that may not be appropriate for the group that we're working with, such as children with cerebral palsy. Now, one of the techniques that we've been exploring for the normalcy fallacy is something that we call discrepancy modeling. We have to remember that every brain injury is unique, and that means each individual moves and participates in daily life in a different manner. And so Megan's been developing these discrepancy modeling frameworks that leverage data science and machine learning, along with our physics-based modeling and experimental analyses.
Discrepancy modeling is a new machine learning technique that myself and my collaborators developed originally in applied mathematics to help resolve the mismatch between the models that we build and the measurements we get from reality. Discrepancy modeling also allows us to investigate and probe what and how much data we need to be able to capture a discrepancy, and if that looks different for different people.
We often call it an error, but it's not an error. It just is the fact that our normative set is not appropriate for this individual.
I think the outcomes of some of this work with discrepancy modeling will allow us to better understand how an individual might respond to assistive devices or clinical interventions. Hopefully it can allow us to inform clinical treatments or aid exoskeleton designers to optimize design parameters to best help an individual.
And so as an example, when an individual learns to use this exoskeleton, it can feel clunky and odd at first. But also on the backside, these are powered ankle exoskeletons, so they're providing torque and force to the body. And while some methods can be used to try to approach a non-disabled walking pattern, that likely isn't optimal for this individual. And so understanding how an individual responds with discrepancy modeling, plugging that information in to a method like human-in-the-loop optimization, where we can then help them optimize and discover the best movement pattern for them, represents the exciting frontiers that we find for this melding of data science with biomechanics to support mobility. And it's been really fun seeing a lot of the kids that we work with go from being young kids in our lab to starting high school. And so we've been trying to challenge ourselves as engineers to not just address the human body and assistive technology, but spend as much time also understanding how can we leverage data science. That's really been a lesson from the individuals that we've worked with over the years. We can create as much technology as we want, but unless we dismantle some of these environmental and societal barriers, we're not going to be able to support mobility in all its forms.